All right, Adam and I are back for signing day part two. I guess this is a regular signing period, Adam, but the Buffs signed 9 more players, so they've got up to 25 for this recruiting class. And are you, first off, I got to ask, are you happy that signing day and the 2019 cycle is now over? It's been a long process, and I know this is what you live for, right. Over at 24/7. But are you kind of glad that it's over?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bittersweet feeling. This is our bread and butter, is covering the recruiting side of things, so I enjoy it. But yeah, I get a little bit of a break here before spring ball starts, so that'll be nice. I haven't seen you, though, in a month and a half, so this is a pretty special occasion here. We're used to seeing each other almost every day.
I was thinking the same thing. Enough of that crap. But we didn't get to go to the Cheez-It Bowl, which, we've been really disappointed about that for the last couple of months. But the bonus is that I think this was a pretty good class for Mel Tucker, and I thought he finished really strong. What do you think?
Well, definitely when you consider this is a transition class, and now with the early signing period, the pool of guys that are available after December 19th is the date that fell on this year is really small. So it makes it tough if you're a new head coach taking over. You've got to really go out there and turn over a lot of rocks, and that's what this staff did. By a lot of these kids that were under the radar type of players had a reason that they were under the radar. So you'd rather see that than reaching for guys that were well known at like a St. John Bosco or something like that, where everybody had seen them. You look at like a Jaden Simon, dealt with some injuries there. Was he a lineman MVP at a USC camp? Plays basketball, really athletic, good size. You take a flyer on somebody like that. You take a flyer on somebody like DJ Oates that runs a 4.33.
Is a flyer.
Is a flyer. Lost both of his parents. There's a reason that he didn't play varsity football until his senior year. So some of the guys that they found are under the radar, but there's a reason for that. And so you look at what CU's done since joining the Pac-12. They finished in last place in the Pac-12 recruiting rankings a lot of times, 4 times, and they've only finished higher than 9th twice, with this being the second time. So facing those obstacles and still having an 8th ranked recruiting class in the Pac-12, again, it's not going to make national headlines, but it's better than what CU's been doing on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, and really I think that's kind of what all you can really ask for at this point with a coach coming in, this late is, hey, let's see what you can put together this first class, right?
Yeah, and you look at what they're doing with the 2020 offers. Mel Tucker said at his press conference today that they were on the phone all day offering kids for 2020, so they've gotten a good jump start there. And they're going after top kids in the class of 2020. So that's an encouraging sign. Being in Kair Elam's Final Four, and I was told CU was number 2 on his list, and it looked like he was ready to sign with Colorado as of last night. It didn't happen. He goes to Florida. It's going to be tough to pull a kid from the state of Florida, especially he's got family ties with the Gators, and you only had so much time. He'd only been out to Boulder once. To be in his final 2, to get on ESPN2. When's the last time they had an announcement where they even had a hat in the ring there on national TV?
Yeah, so that was a bonus for them. There's a lot of guys in this class I like. I want to get to that here in a minute. But one thing people always ask about the quarterback. There's no quarterback in this class. We're typically used to seeing at least one guy. We all know why there's not one. They had Ty Evans committed for a long time. With the coaching change, he goes to NC State, and really there wasn't much time to really get a quarterback. I know that they kind of kicked the tires on Padilla down at Cherry Creek, but he was really committed to Iowa and didn't want to. Kind of leave them in the dark on the last minute. But your thoughts on the quarterback situation going forward?
Yeah, Padilla, if they had another month to try to recruit him, I think there's a good chance he ends up here. But you can't blame that young man. He'd made a commitment, so that's admirable. Obviously, you'd much rather have them pass on taking a 19 quarterback if they're lukewarm on them. And they did look around a little bit and just really didn't find a quarterback they thought could really help this program. If that's the case, then you go into 2020 with that as a selling point. We didn't take a quarterback last year. Even if they take 2, you can still use that to try to get a top guy in there. They've offered a lot of dual threat types, so we're starting to see that they want a mobile guy back there behind center. So we'll see how that shakes out. There's been a few 2020 quarterbacks have already said they're going to check out Boulder in the spring. So I think they'll end up landing at least one quality guy at that position.
Well, back in December, we kind of broke down the first 16 guys that signed. So let's kind of focus on the 9 that signed today. Give me a couple that you really like.
I mentioned Jaden Simon, a guy that was a lineman MVP at USC. I really like what he can do. This class pretty much across the board has got guys that are pretty intriguing but necessarily have the star power behind him.
Right.
Quinn Perry is one guy with a background in rugby. He told me he didn't really get serious about football until last offseason.
Yeah.
And when he did that, he dropped some bad weight and put together some really good film. If you watch what he did at El Camino College as a sophomore, that looks like legit film, like a guy that can come in this program and compete, and they need a guy at linebacker to do that. So those are a couple of guys that jump out to me. What about you?
Yeah, Quinn was the guy I was going to mention because I went and watched some of his rugby tape too, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, I'm excited about that kid just because of that background. And, the Seahawks teach that rugby-style tackling, and he said that's something that obviously he does, and that he believes in that type of tackling, and that he believes that makes him a better linebacker. I'm very curious to see him. DJ Oates is the guy that you mentioned that had a chance to talk with him. His story is pretty remarkable, and he can just flat out fly. And so I'm eager to see, can he actually play? And then I think an obvious one, Levante Schultz is one that you see what Laviska did here at Colorado, and you wonder, well, is Levante the same type of player? He's a little bit different type of player, but I'm excited about him. I think that kid's going to come in wanting to make a name for himself and play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, just knowing that he's going to be looked at as Laviska's little brother for a while, and he's going to want to have that chip on his shoulder and prove that, hey, I'm my own guy.
Yeah, you even saw a tweet go out from another account that said, we have two Laviskas, and he comes back, no, you have a Viska and a Vontae. We're different people.
Yeah.
And he's just as close to Katie Nixon as he is Laviska Shenault. So if you want to thank somebody for Vontae coming here to Boulder, KD needs to be mentioned there as well. One other guy, Trustin Oliver. Would be remiss if I didn't mention him. If there weren't some academic concerns with him early on, this is a guy that has double-digit Power 5 offers, in my opinion, from the Southern California area, and he looks like a Southern California athlete, 6'3", 205, and has still kind of a lean frame. I think, especially given the need at safety, him and Mark Perry are a couple guys that could play really early on here.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you mentioned it, but a lot of intriguing guys, intriguing stories with this group. And I think it makes for, I guess an intriguing class. I mean, 25 guys overall in this class. You mentioned, I think it's ranked 8th right now. Overall, I think it's a good class. I mean, it's a nice starting point for Mel Tucker.
Again, second time since they've joined the Pac-12, this is as high as they've ranked. So, again, with the Elam announcement being in its final 2, it makes you really, if you're a Colorado fan, optimistic about what they could be signing a year from now when they have an entire year to lay that groundwork. I think they're going to finish higher than 8th a year from now, which would be their best class, obviously, since joining the Pac-12.
Doing what we do, we're served a lot of Kool-Aid. We've been served a lot since he was hired.
Yeah.
I'm drinking it up right now, though. I like the start that we've seen from Coach Tucker, and we'll see how these guys can play. But right now, I'm drinking that Kool-Aid.
And Mel Tucker said when he went out on the recruiting trail, there's a lot of people rooting, a lot of high school coaches and even parents that are rooting for Colorado football to get back. You know, the guys that are recruiting don't remember Colorado being good, but those coaches and parents do. And so we'll see. There's a lot to sell here. In Mel Tucker, there's always a honeymoon period, but he genuinely seems almost surprised a little bit about how much he has to sell as the head coach here.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys perform on the field, how many we see this fall. We'll obviously get more into that as we get closer to the season. And I think this is probably the last time, we'll get together for one of these until spring ball in about a month and a half. So, I guess it's nice seeing you.
I'll miss you.
I'll miss you too.